Hey everyone, welcome to another video tutorial from gcsemathsguide.com. Today we're looking at how to simplify negative indices such as 4 to the power of 4 times 4 to the power of minus 5. And we're also going to learn how to rewrite negative indices using reciprocals. Let me just explain to you a few of the key words here. An index number or indices is basically the small numbers that you have written at the top, and a reciprocal is basically, let's say for instance I had something like 4 to the power of minus 1, then I can rewrite that as 1 over 4. This is called a reciprocal. Right, so let's go ahead and see a couple of examples and learn about negative indices. The first example that I'd like to take you through is if for instance you have a negative index like 2 to the power of minus 5, what you can do is just rewrite the same thing in a different way using reciprocals. So I can say that it's the same thing as 1 over 2 to the power of 5. And what I've done here is very simple. I've just rewritten what I started off with as 2 to the power of 5 without the negative in front of the 5, and I've written that all over 1. Here's another example. Let's say I had 4 to the power of minus 3. Then that would be the same thing as 1 over 4 to the power of 3. Here's another one. Let's say I had 2 to the power of minus 6. Then I could say it's the same thing as 1 over 2 to the power of 6. I'm pretty sure this is making sense now. So let's move on to another example. So let's label this example number 1. Let's move on to example number 2. On this example, what I want to do is use the index laws that you've learned before from another of my videos and apply the negative index that we've learned. So let's say I had 4 to the power of 5, and I want to multiply this by 4 to the power of minus 7. The first thing you should realize is that the base is the same. So I've got 4 here and 4 here, which is my base, and it's the same. So what I can do is start adding my powers because I've got a multiplication. So if I do that, I get 4 to the power of 5 plus minus 7. And if I simplify this, I know for a fact a plus and a minus next to each other makes a minus. So I end up with 4 to the power of 5 minus 7. And 5 minus 7 gives me 4 to the power of minus 2. I just want you to compare the answer that we just got here to what we did in example number 1. We know for a fact that whenever we have a negative power, we can write it as the reciprocal. So what I want you to do is get into the habit of doing that as well. So to tidy things up, you can also say that 4 to the power of minus 2 is the same thing as 1 over 4 squared. And we know that 4 squared means 4 times 4. We know that 4 squared means 4 times 4, which is the same thing as 1 over 16. And there's my answer. Let's take a look at another example where instead of multiplying, we're going to be dividing. So let's say we had, so that will be example number 3. Let's say we had 4 to the power of 7, and I want you to divide that by 4 to the power of 10. Here, because I have a division going on, I'm going to take away the powers from each other. So I'm going to end up with 4 to the power of 7 take away 10. And 7 take away 10 gives me 4 to the power of minus 3. And again, we're going to look at our answer, and if it's negative, then we're going to try to rewrite it using the reciprocal. So in our case, we can say that it's the same thing as 1 over 4 to the power of 3. And if I simplify that even further, I can say that it's the same thing as 1 over 4 times 4 times 4, because 4 cubed means 4 times 4 times 4. And what I can do now is just multiply the 4s together. So if I did 4 times 4, that's equal to 16. And then if I just do 16 multiplied by 4, it gives me 64. So I've got my answer as 1 over 64. And there's the answer. Okay, now let's take a look at one last example when I'm going to divide again, but in this case, instead of having a positive number as my power, I'm going to have negative numbers. So let's say I had, shall we say, 8 to the power of minus 3, divide that by 8 to the power of minus 2. So again, we're going to apply exactly the same rule. We know for a fact that this is a division, so we're going to take away the powers, and in this case we end up with 8 to the power of minus 3, take away because we're dividing, and now I'm going to open up a bracket and then write the minus 2. The reason why I open up a bracket is so that I don't have two operators, or two signs if you like, next to each other, so I just put a bracket there. Alright, now I know for a fact when I have a minus and a minus, it becomes a plus, so I can say that it's the same thing as 8 to the power of minus 3 plus 2, and minus 3 plus 2 gives me 8 to the power of minus 1. And again, going back to our first example, when we have negative powers, we can rewrite it using the reciprocal. So we can say that it's the same thing as 1 over 8 to the power of 1. And 8 to the power of 1 means that it's just 8. So my final answer is 1 over 8. And ta-da, there's your answer. Okay, what I want to do very quickly is take a look at another example. That will be example number 5. Now, if I did say previously that I'm just going to look at one last example, then made a mistake, so let's just take a look at another one very quickly. So let's say we had something like now 5. Let's say I had 7 to the power of 2, so 7 squared, in brackets, and that bracket was raised to the power of 3. Whenever you have that sort of situation, what you need to do is times the two powers together, so we end up with 7 times 2 times 3, which gives me 7 to the power of 6. The reason that works is because if you think about it, 7 squared to the power of 3 means 7 to the power of 2 times 7 to the power of 2 times 7 to the power of 2. And we know for a fact when we're multiplying the same base, what we do is add the powers. So 2 plus 2 plus 2 gives me 7 to the power of 6. And you can see that it's the same answer. So to recap, whenever you've got a number squared, so in this case we've got 2 squared, and it's in brackets and it's raised to another power, all you have to do is times the powers together. Alright, and finally, let's take a look at another one where we have a negative power involved. So again, let's say we had 7 to the power of minus 2, and I want to say that it's to the power of, let's say, 3 again? Well, like I said to you, you're going to times the powers together. So in this case, we're going to do minus 2 times 3, which gives me 7 to the power of minus 6. And here you should recognize the negative power, which means that we're going to use the reciprocal again, and we're going to say that it's the same thing as 1 over 7 to the power of 6. And if you work this out on your calculator, 7 to the power of 6 is the same thing as, well, that's a big number. So whenever you get a big number, it's okay to leave it as a power. And just so if you're curious, 7 to the power of 6 is 1 over 117,649. And don't worry, I didn't work out in my head, I used the calculator. Okay, and that's my final answer. Well, I hope you understood this lesson about negative indices. If you enjoyed the video and watched my video on my blog on YouTube, don't forget to click the like button and share it with your friends. And I'll see you soon in another video. Take care, bye.